Hey y'all, jumping back into Frodo's training series. It's been a little bit busy setting up my training business here in Texas. More on that soon. But I'm going to go back and fill in the gaps with some old footage from when I was in Florida training Frodo. So I wanted to be able to do some things while he's in motion. Because if he's just standing there while I'm putting things on him and swinging ropes all around him, he's not necessarily going to become any more comfortable with what's going on. If I can get him used to these things while he's moving around, that's going to be such a higher level of training, and he's going to be a lot more comfortable with what's happening. So then he can start to think through things a little bit quicker, and it's really going to help him because I can really reward the moment that I feel like his focus comes back to me. You can see him looking off in the distance. There must have been something that was worrying him, and you'll start to see later in the video where he really starts to put his attention on what we're doing. First, I like to have them follow it and touch their face with it, and I think if I can get them to really activate their natural curiosity, that'll be huge for them. And so I teach them the word touch, and they get a release after they touch it. So then they start to investigate things that interest them or worry them a little bit, and they start to realize that they can conquer those fears. So then I'll start to brush his face with it and put it over his neck. And I just want to let him know that although the ribbons look like a lot, they're actually soft and they feel just like a brush. I still feel like he's not really focused on what we're doing and what's going on. He's kind of just standing there accepting what's happening to him, but I feel like he's not super engaged yet. So my goal for the day was to really get his mind back on me. So what I do is I start with something on him and then I ask him to move with it already on him, and then I'll work up to where I can put it on him as he's moving around. This is really interesting because you can see the moment he realizes, oh, this thing is scary and I'm afraid of it, instead of just tuning out and waiting for me to take it off him. Horses are very non-confrontational animals, and that freeze response can come so naturally to them that sometimes it's almost like the first thing they do. And so I'm showing him he can react, he's okay to be scared, and it's normal to be scared. This ribbon stick is a lot of stimuli, and so what I'm not going to do is tell him stand still while I cover you with what looks like a bunch of snakes. I'm going to let him process it from a distance. I'm going to let him see it as he's going around. And the best way that I've found to make sure that they're not in that freeze state and that they're actually processing and thinking about the thing at hand is to have them move around. So if he's trotting around, if he's snorting, if he's nervous, I'll just wait and then I'll show him, hey, remember, this thing is soft and it doesn't hurt you. And he's okay to spook away, and then I'll just ask him to move again. And so I'll alternate that standing still and that motion as he starts to process, and you can see that his mind is really on what we're doing. Does he look off in the distance while we're standing still? Yes, but when we start doing things again, he starts to come back to me a little more. And so we basically wash, rinse, repeated for a little while, and so I'm going to speed up a little bit of this, but it's really interesting to see the change in his body language and his expression throughout the session. An important distinction to make is that this is not chase the horse with the scary thing until they stand still. That's not how I train. That's called flooding, and that's how you create a shutdown horse that isn't truly trusting and has just gone internal. So this is basically just let him see it from a distance as he's going around, only move it closer when he's ready, and while I'll use it sometimes to ask him to go forward because I want to make sure that he's not freezing, that he is confident moving out, I'll only move it closer to him when I feel like he's ready, and I'll take it away if needed. It's typically easier for them if I start with something on them and then take it away as they're moving, and so that's what I'll do. So while giving him some breaks to process and catch his breath, I continued what we were doing, and he started to come back to me. Now you can see where he was looking off in the distance whenever we were standing still. And occasionally he would hear something going on in the distance and he'd start to worry about that, but I'd just remind him that he can focus on what's going on in here. Somebody was riding in the distance, and as we know, that's one of his big triggers that can really worry him, and in the beginning that would send him into a nervous panic. So now he's learning he doesn't have to spiral, and it actually feels better if he focuses on what he's doing and learns to relax. So it's slow progress, but this made a big difference for him. This session alone changed a lot of his demeanor and how he thought about things. So he's still figuring it out, but he's starting to make more continuous circles with less stopping. And now he's learning he can stand with his head low instead of immediately going back to looking off in the distance, worrying about the rider. That break really helped him, and you can really see the change in him. Instead of thinking he needed to be either panicking or standing still, going internal, he started to realize that he can relax into that gentle motion. And while he looked away, he looked back of his own accord. And it was more of a relaxed, curious look instead of thinking that he needed to be extremely worried about what he saw. This is where I felt like he really started to soften and to melt a little bit. He's never been a horse that's extremely afraid of me or really of the things that I'm using, but he's very worried about what's happening and thinks that he needs to be on guard all the time. So this is where he started to realize that he doesn't have to basically be watching out for danger. So my phone did run out of storage, but I set it back up again after clearing out some space, and I just wanted to share where we left off at this session. So we were doing a little bit of stationary work now. It's important that you're able to do stuff standing still, and you don't want to make a horse that's anxious, fidgety, thinking they always need to be moving. But I really like his expression here because it shows that he is tuned in, he's thinking about what's happening, and he's really focused. It's very different from the horses that will hold their head high with their whole body tense while you're flapping a flag or something else around them. You can see how his ears are moving, his head is turning as I walk, he's blinking, and he doesn't have a super distant look in his eye anymore. And it also helps him to understand that while I can use a tool to create energy to ask him to move, that it doesn't mean that he needs to be afraid of that tool or think it's going to hurt him. He did very well with that, and I think it was instrumental in his learning, so that was something that we continued to improve upon over the course of his training. The last thing I wanted to do with him was just to put the saddle pad on him. It's important to get them used to you swinging things up on their back, so I'll spend a lot of time making sure they're fully comfortable with that before I try to put something like a saddle on. So I'll let him watch that motion and follow it around, and then I'll start to go to actually put it on him. It's interesting to watch his ears as his curiosity starts to engage. So while I'm probably taking more time with this than is actually necessary, I'm just making sure I'm very thorough. Could I put it on him straight away? Absolutely. But the more time that I take, the more I know that he's going to be comfortable with it. I think the change in his demeanor and his body language and the amount of time he spent looking at me or at things in the round pen versus the outside of it was really stark during this training session. So this definitely let me know that I was on the right track with him, and now I had a really solid game plan for how to help him through his unique issue. Even sometimes I get distracted by things that I hear, which was a horse splashing in his water bucket. Well, thank y'all for watching, and I have to apologize for the hiatus in the YouTube videos, but I'm going to try to get back into it and catch y'all up to speed on what Frodo and I have been up to during our preparation for the Mustang Magic. Make sure to leave a comment if you enjoyed and subscribe to see the rest of his training series, and if you've missed any of our previous videos, there will be a playlist linked in the beginning of this video, so y'all can see everything that Frodo learned before this day.